Good afternoon, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV coming to you with a breaking news update this afternoon as the U.S. has seized a second oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. So we want to bring you the latest updates on this. We're going to talk a little bit about the Epstein Files, all of the partial Epstein Files release. We'll do an update on that as well. But we'll start by focusing on this second oil tanker seized by the U.S. as the Trump administration continues to put pressure on the government of Nicolás Maduro. Okay, and this is interesting. It's being reported, the New York Times reports that this is not a sanctioned oil tanker. That this is not a sanctioned oil tanker. The New York Times reports that this tanker, it's flagged in Panama, but they say it's operated by a China-based oil trader, and it has a history of taking Venezuelan oil to Chinese refineries. All right, so let's get into this, and we're going to be taking your comments and questions on the air. I really appreciate you joining here. We got, hey, thanks to Groovy Goose for being a member. And thanks to our moderators, Roberts, May Queen, and Ruth are moderating right now. Janet B is moderating, thank you. Over on YouTube. And we have moderating on Twitch, Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai 3, and Mick Bridges. Thanks so much. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha moderating on X. And Charlotte Webb moderating over, Margaret Riley over there on Facebook moderating. Thank you. Thanks to Susan Priest Buchner for being a subscriber. Someone said they don't get notifications. By the way, if you're having any kind of issue finding out when we're going live, turn on our free notifications. Those are the best ones. We have our own notification system. You sign up once, it's free. The mods will post a link to it. It's also, you can find the notifications link in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook, but I would definitely sign up for the Discord notifications. All right, so here's what Kristi Noem had to say. The mods will, oops. Here's what Kristi Noem had to say. Department of Homeland Security Secretary. We're going to show you this video. She posted this like 8-minute video. Oops, hold on. So we're going to show you the video. But let me just show you what she had to say. She said, in a pre-dawn action early this morning on December 20th, The U.S. Coast Guard, with the support of the U.S. Department of War, apprehended an oil tanker that was last docked in Venezuela. The U.S. will continue to pursue the illicit movement of sanctioned oil. She says sanctioned oil. She doesn't say sanctioned tanker. That is used to fund narco-terrorism in the region. We will find you and we will stop you. Thank you to our brave men of the Coast Guard and Department of War. And now the ship, from the video you can tell it's called the Centuries. And if you go to Marine Traffic, which is a ship tracking and marine analytics provider, marinetraffic.com, you can see their last reported position for this ship. Actually, when was that? When was this last reported here? Received yesterday. So this was the position yesterday. As of yesterday, the ship you can see there is off the coast of Venezuela. Maybe like 100 miles off the coast. Can you guys, it's right here. It's the one with a circle around it. I don't know exactly where it is now. But again, off the coast of Venezuela. All right, and let me show you what Pete Hegseth posted about this. Now, Secretary of Defense / Secretary of War Hegseth posted something, but he seemed to imply that he posted about sanctioned tankers, but the reporting suggests that this tanker is not sanctioned. So Pete Hegseth said, President Trump has been clear the blockade of sanctioned oil tankers departing from or bound for Venezuela will remain in full force until Maduro's criminal enterprise returns every stolen American asset. The thing is, the New York Times is reporting this is not a sanctioned tanker. Hegseth said the Department of War with our partners at the Coast Guard will unflinchingly conduct maritime interdiction operations through Operation Southern Spear to dismantle illicit networks, to dismantle illicit criminal networks. Violence, drugs, and chaos will not control the Western Hemisphere. It's also interesting to see, where is my pen? Uh-oh. I might have to take, sometimes I write myself a note. I need about 7 seconds. My pen is not here. Hold on, give me 7 seconds. All right, I got it. So it's also interesting that Hegseth is, the talk almost the whole time the U.S. has been building up this military presence near Venezuela. The U.S. government has been talking about doing it because of drugs, saying they want to stop drugs coming in the U.S. But then like a week or two ago, President Trump posted and suggested that it's about, that the key here is Venezuela stealing American stuff. And if you look at the post from Hegseth today, it says, the blockade will remain in full force until Maduro's criminal enterprise returns every stolen American asset. Hang on a moment. So I think that's interesting. It's a bit of a shift in language from focusing on drugs to focusing on stolen American assets. Uh-oh. Oh, no, there's a typo. Oh, no, I just noticed there's a typo in the headline. I get too comfortable and then I don't spell check my headlines when I type them out. And then I have a typo and I'm like, man, why didn't I just look that over again? Okay, sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know. It said Venezuela. Thanks for letting me know, chat. It's fine on the title of the broadcast. Yeah, so that's really interesting. I feel like I don't mean to be to sound like a broken record, but I actually think this is an important point that President Trump posted about this. What was it, a week ago? And he said, I mean, this echoes Trump's language. The blockade will remain in full force until Maduro's criminal enterprise returns every stolen American asset. So we weren't hearing that language before. I'd like to find the Trump post. It can be a little difficult to find. Let me see if I can find the Trump post from True Social so I can show you that again. Where was that? What day was that post? Sometimes I want to go back and find like old True Social posts, and it's not the easiest thing to find them. I'm going to take some comments from you guys too. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Here, I found it. This is the post Trump made. This is his post. Hold on. This was his post from December 16th. It was 4 days ago, actually. So 4 days ago, Trump said Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before, until such time as they return to the United States of America all of the oil, land, and other assets that they previously stole from us. The illegitimate Maduro regime is using oil from the stolen oil fields to finance themselves drug terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnapping. For the theft of our assets and many other reasons, including terrorism, drug smuggling, and human trafficking, the Venezuelan regime has been designated a foreign terrorist organization. Therefore, today I am ordering a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela. The illegal aliens and criminals that the Maduro regime has sentenced to the United States during the weekend in that Biden administration are being returned to Venezuela at a rapid pace. America will not allow criminals, terrorists, or other countries to rob, threaten, or harm our nation, and likewise will not allow a hostile regime to take our oil, land, or any other assets, which must be returned to the United States immediately. Thank you for attention to this matter. So really, in the last week, the language of the Trump administration has really shifted on Venezuela from, hey, they're sending all these drugs into this country, we need to stop the drugs, to, hey, they've stolen all these American assets, they got to give these assets back. We're going to have a blockade that we're not going to lift, and they're going to have a shock to them like nothing they've ever seen before until they return the stolen assets. So again, it's very different language here. And as I mentioned, it's the same with it's the Hegseth post today. That Trump post was from 4 days ago. The Hegseth post it echoes that language. President Trump has been clear. It says President Trump has been clear. The blockade of the sanctioned oil tankers departing from or bound for Venezuela will remain in full force until Maduro's criminal enterprise returns every stolen American asset. And again, let me point out, the New York Times reports that this ship, the tanker today that was taken into custody, seized by the U.S., the New York Times is saying it's not a sanctioned tanker. I want to take some comments from you guys, but I do think that's an important point, that the language has really changed over the last several days. So let me take some comments from you guys, and I'm going to show you some reporting on this. And I'm also let's look at the video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the video up. This is the video that was posted by Kristi Noem. Excuse me, by Secretary Noem. All right, here is the video. Let's look at it's an 8-minute video. So while this video is playing, I'm gonna take some comments from you guys. Here is the video. Okay, now. Crift Labs, thank you, says, why does he say it's stolen, basically? Yeah, we'll have to talk about that after. I don't know that the Trump administration, I haven't seen a clear explanation of this is what we believe is stolen. Here's a list of everything we think is stolen and that needs to be returned and why we think it's stolen. So, for example, under the Hugo Chavez regime in Venezuela, which was before Maduro, I believe, if I have it right, there were some oil assets belonging to U.S. based American companies that were expropriated by Venezuela, but I don't know that that's, again, I'm not aware of a specific list that the U.S. government has put out saying, these are the stolen assets exactly we want returned. But it's a good question. So we can look into that too. I don't have a great answer for you on, I don't have a detailed explanation of the U.S. thinking on what was stolen, they say, and why they classified as stolen. It's a fair question. I don't have a great answer on it for you. But maybe we can do some more research on it. Thanks, Scott Bedwell, by the way. Scott says it's almost like it was never about the drugs. Let's see here. Hang on a moment here. One of our viewers said, where did it go? Orange Man Good said, try stealing a Chinese tanker and see what happens, LOL. The New York Times reports that this tanker is Panamanian flagged, but it is operated by a China-based oil trader with a history of taking Venezuelan crude oil to Chinese refineries. Our viewer Dean Adeo thinks that Exxon and Phillips were forced out of Venezuela in 2007 when they refused to accept the new contract. Venezuela has the right to refuse a contract in their own country. That's what Dean Adeo said. I am not an expert on the expropriations in the past in Venezuela. You know, Wikipedia has an article, History of U.S. Involvement in Venezuela's Petroleum Industry. And they say that in 2007, the Venezuelan government expropriated the assets of foreign oil companies that declined to restructure their holdings to grant the Venezuelan state oil agency majority control of those holdings. Notably, ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips resisted these terms, leading to the seizure of their assets. You're looking at video of the seizure of the tanker today off the coast of Venezuela. Hang on, I'll read some more comments from you guys. Our viewer, Deadman, says, NGL, this is pretty badass. Michelle Bryan says, Venezuela cannot steal American assets in the country without paying for them. Tudor Windows says, what is our oil doing under their jungle? Matthew says, where do they sail the ship now? I don't know where this ship is going to go. I haven't seen any reporting on it yet. I forget where they took the last one. I have to look that up. Our viewer Urbexy says, sounds like the U.S. military is being used as a debt collector for U.S. oil companies. Brendan Brumond thinks this is not going to end well, especially with China. Second Pancake says, are these seized tankers part of taking back what was stolen? Well, both Trump and Secretary Hegseth have said that the blockade will continue until Venezuela gives back stolen assets. Again, though, the blockade is on sanctioned tankers. Reportedly, this is not a sanctioned tanker. Dutchson says this feud goes back a ways. Super Kitty Show thinks U.S. tankers will be targeted. Let me give you some more updates on this story. I'm going to read you something about this as we watch this video from the seizure. Again, this happened this morning. So let me give you an update here, and we'll take more comments from you guys. This is the second oil tanker. When was the first one seized? I don't even remember what day that was. I have to look this up. The first one was seized. The Skipper was seized 10 days ago. So the Skipper was a sanctioned oil tanker that had, I believe it was reported about, 2 million barrels of oil on it? I think, if I remember right. Don't hold me to that. Wikipedia says Skipper had left Venezuela on December 4th with about 1.8 billion barrels of crude oil from the state oil company. It offloaded some of that oil and then was in international waters when it was boarded by U.S. forces. Okay, so this one, hang on, that was 10 days ago. This is this morning. Look at the helicopter. Look at the helicopter above the tanker there. I believe this was a pre-dawn operation, according to Secretary Noem. Pre-dawn action. All right, let me... oh, by the way, thanks to Gary Baines for the memberships. Thank you, Gary. That's nice of you. Also, thanks Zeppelin 904. Zeppelin 904, thank you. Also, Toolman Tim, thanks for your support over there on Twitch. Toolman Tim gave a gift sub. Thanks, Toolman Tim. Let me... all right, here's a little update here. I'm going to read you a little update on this. Washington Post says U.S. apprehends another oil tanker amid Trump's Venezuela blockade. So the Post says the U.S. intercepted a commercial vessel leaving Venezuela today, days after President Trump announced a complete blockade on all sanctioned oil tankers entering or leaving Venezuela as part of the administration's ramped up pressure against the government of President Nicolás Maduro. Again, the New York Times says this is not a sanctioned vessel. U.S. Coast Guard members both boarded an oil tanker that was last docked in Venezuela, said Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security. A video, which we're watching right now, shows helicopters hovering over a vessel as service members rappel on a rope onto the deck. Kristi Noem claimed the vessel showed the illicit movement of sanctioned oil that is used to fund narco-terrorism in the region, which the U.S. has used as a justification to conduct military strikes in the Caribbean Sea. A person familiar with Venezuela's oil industry told the Washington Post the tanker apprehended was carrying oil from a China-based trader with a history of taking Venezuelan crude oil to Chinese refineries. That matches the New York Times reporting. Reuters and AP reported that the operation took place off the coast of Venezuela in international waters. 2 U.S. officials told the Washington Post the operation was conducted with support from U.S. military assets. The U.S. military has at least 11 warships patrolling in the area, including the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford. Last week, U.S. forces in the Caribbean seized a sanctioned vessel loaded with oil after it left Venezuela. Since September, the U.S. military has also conducted 27 strikes that have killed more than 100 people on small boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific that the U.S. said were carrying drugs. As of last week, there were more than 30 tankers in the Caribbean designated by the Treasury Department as sanctioned that could be affected immediately by the blockade, according to analysis from independent ship tracking site tankertrackers.com and global intelligence company Kepler. Of those 30 sanctioned tankers in the Caribbean, at least 12, including the skipper, which U.S. forces seized last week, are carrying Venezuelan oil. But again, I just want to keep repeating this. The New York Times is reporting that this ship today that was seized is not a sanctioned tanker. I want to take some more comments from you guys about this. So if it turns out that it's not a sanctioned tanker, you know what, by the way, AZ Intel pointed out that the Venezuela has released a statement, so we're going to look at their statement. Thanks, AZ Intel, for pointing that out. If it's not a sanctioned tanker, then what is the justification they're citing for seizing this one? Because the blockade Trump announced was for sanctioned tankers. Jake's Online says, what United States property has Venezuela stolen? Availability says if it's not sanctioned, then it's piracy. Now, Michelle Bryan points out that Kristi Noem said the oil itself is sanctioned. She said sanctioned oil, not sanctioned tanker. Mammy Washington says this is the way it is supposed to be. American superiority at play, the rightful order of things. Our viewer Tim MB thinks war is coming. Evelyn thinks the U.S. is now actively targeting the shadow fleet operating around Venezuela. Thamilton thinks this makes Americans unsafe around the world. Turtsy says U.S. stealing oil? TK592 says, I think we're playing with fire by overimposing ourselves on the world. WFT Jet says, U.S. are the law of the sea. Christopher Chan says, pirates. Momento says, oil. Super Donk says, our oil now. Thanks to Tim Glenn, by the way. Tim says, even if the tanker is not sanctioned, what is anyone going to do? Who is going to arrest the U.S. military? Thank you, Tim Glenn. Thanks also P.A. Jeeper. Did Senator Fetterman make a statement on this today, P.A. Jeeper? Let's see. I have to go. It looks like not, well, hold on. I have to look this up. I didn't see one about this seizure on his social media. I don't have that statement handy, P.A. Jeeper. Maybe you can message me on X with it or something, @Lookner. I looked at his X account and I didn't see anything there about it the last 10 days. Hang on a moment here. Yeah, I want to tell you in a second the Venezuela statement. Oh, Breitbart had an article where they said that Senator Fetterman, who's a Democrat, but often disagrees with other Democrats about things, or sometimes does, he said he thought on News Nation's Cuomo that blocking and seizing sanctioned oil tankers around Venezuela makes a lot of sense. This is a story from December 16th in Breitbart. If anybody wants to read about that, you can look it up on Breitbart. Thank you, P.A. Jeeper. Hey, let's look at the Venezuela government statement that they released. Pulling it up right now. And I'll put it on the screen for you. If I can. No, I pulled up the wrong one. One moment here. I want to pull up the statement from the Venezuelan government. Okay, now where is this? I'm at where I think it's supposed to be. AZ Intel posted it. Normally I find it on their Instagram account. So where is this coming from? Need to verify the statement here. CBS News posted an old one. Oh. Let me try to verify the statement. I got to find the original source of the statement. Once I do that, I can read it to you. I just want to make sure on it. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm looking right there. All right, let's show you some other. Let's talk. I want to give you some more reporting about this. Hang on a moment. One moment. One moment. One moment. One moment. Just one moment. For those of you just joining us, the U.S. has seized another oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela today. Remember, oil is very important to the Venezuelan economy. And this is not just a sanctioned oil tanker. This is well, according to the New York Times, this is a not sanctioned oil tanker. So seizing not sanctioned oil tankers would be an expansion of the blockade against sanctioned oil tankers. My name thinks it's more piracy. All right, let me just go over what we know about this. Here is what, hold on. Here's what Kristi Noem said about this. Hang on. She said, in a pre-dawn action early this morning on December 20th, the U.S. Coast Guard, with the support of the Department of War, apprehended an oil tanker that was last docked in Venezuela. The U.S. will continue to pursue the illicit movement of sanctioned oil that is used to fund narco-terrorism in the region. We will find you and we will stop you. Thank you to our brave men and women of the Coast Guard and Department of War. She says sanctioned oil. Secretary Hegseth posted, President Trump has been clear. The blockade of sanctioned oil tankers, again, not sure if this is a sanctioned oil tanker, departing from or bound for Venezuela will remain in full force until Maduro's criminal enterprise returns every stolen American asset. The Department of War, with our partners at the Coast Guard, will unflinchingly conduct maritime interdiction operations through Operation Southern Spear to dismantle illicit criminal networks. Violence, drugs, and chaos will not control the Western Hemisphere. Oops, hold on. Now I'm showing you that video. Let me read some more comments here. Hank Mann says colonialist America. Michael McIntyre says bad for Venezuela. Atomic Farting says give us the land. Fritjof said what did they steal from the U.S.? P Square said what asset? I do think it might be helpful for the Trump administration to clarify exactly what assets claimed stolen assets they are talking about, because again, I have not seen that clarified, and there's understandably, there are a lot of questions about that. Rich Delano says this is freaking awesome, about time. Seven Pumpkin Sauce says interesting precedent being set. Peter Chancel says El Trumpo is making America a criminal dictator state. Let's see here. I'm going to give you some more details. Hang on. So here's a report from AP about it. AP says U.S. forces today. Before I say that, let me just thank our moderators again. We have Roberts Mayqueen and Janet B. and Ruth Krafasi are all in our YouTube chat. Thank you, moderating. Thanks to Nina Drew for your support as well. So thanks to all of our moderators over there, Janet B., Ruth Krafasi, Beth Mythical, Roberts Mayqueen. On Twitch, shout out to our moderators there. Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai 3, McBritches, Sarah, and Surly Dev. I should put up there also, I should say earlier today on the screen so people understand. Oopsie. earlier today. Or video. Video of seizure from earlier today. How's that? Oops, there's a typo. Let's fix that. Thanks again. Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai, 3, McBritches, Sarah and Surly Dev, who are moderating on Twitch. And thanks to Rodders, 2, for subscribing on Twitch. Linda Bell, Larry, Misha moderating on X. Shannon Davis Hughes, Charlotte Webb over there on Facebook moderating. Margaret Riley, thank you. All right, let's give you a little more background here. AP is reporting on this, and they say, let's see what AP says. U.S. forces today stopped an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela for the second time in less than 2 weeks as President Trump continues to ramp up pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. The pre-dawn operation comes days after Trump announced a, quote, blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers coming in and out of the South American country, and follows the December 10th seizure by American forces of an oil tanker off Venezuela's coast. Homeland Security Secretary Noem confirmed the U.S. Coast Guard, with help from the Defense Department, stopped the oil tanker that was last docked in Venezuela. There it is. She posted a video on social media, this video of unclassified video of a U.S. helicopter landing personnel on a vessel called Centuries. A crude oil tanker flying under the flag of Panama operates under the name Centuries and was recently spotted near the Venezuelan coast, according to marine traffic. AP says it was not immediately clear if this vessel is under U.S. sanctions. Again, this is reportedly a Panamanian flagged vessel. Multiple reports say that it actually is operated by a China-based oil trader with a history of taking Venezuelan oil, crude oil, to Chinese refineries. Both the New York Times and Washington Post have similar reports about that. Continuing with the AP reporting, they say, oh, hey guys, check this out. AP reports this action was considered, this action was a consented boarding, with the tanker stopping voluntarily and allowing U.S. forces to board it, according to a U.S. official who was not authorized to comment publicly. Now, I get it's called a consented boarding. My guess is that this was not voluntarily done in the sense of, my guess is that there was some sort of communication from the U.S. military beforehand. I find it hard to believe that the tanker the tanker decided today, for all of a sudden, for no reason, hey, let's stop the ship and call the U.S. military and tell them we're here and say, come on and board. So I just want to be clear. The tanker did stop voluntarily and allow U.S. forces to board it. But my guess was that was at the request of the U.S. forces. That's just my guess. Pentagon and White House officials did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Now, there is a statement from Venezuela. I was trying to find the source. Oh, I see. That's a good idea. Thanks, AZ Intel mentioned it. Yes. So I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you. There's a Venezuelan news outlet that posted this and said this was the statement. So I think that's a good. That's certainly a good, reliable source. So I'm going to show you the Venezuelan government statement right now. We're going to look at it right now. Thanks again to AZ Intel, who I follow. Okay, now, here is page 1 of the Venezuelan government statement. Let's see if I can translate it. I'm going to do my best here, guys, to at least get you the basic idea. Might have to use my dictionary here. Okay, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela denounces and rejects categorically the robbery and I think sequestro might be kidnapping of a new private ship that was transporting Venezuelan oil, as well as the, hold on a second, the forced, I have to look at that word, of the forced blank of the crew committed by military forces of the United States and of America in international waters. Desaparición. I want to make sure I have that right. I mean, to disappear, although I don't think they're saying they made them disappear. Maybe they took them off the ship or something. Yeah, again, I don't, there's some kind of, my guess is that there's some kind of figurative use of desaparición there. Anyways, let's keep reading. This serious, is this act of piracy, hecho de piratería, implies, or in this, I think it's serious act of piracy, involves the flagrant commission of crime, previsto, is that predicted? I'm not sure. In Article 3, or is previsto, that might be, hold on a second, predicted or planned. Previsto in Article 3 of the, I think this is agreement for the repression of illicit acts against the security of navigation. What they're saying is, I think they're saying it violates a 1988 treaty, it sounds like, or agreement, as well as a gross violation of Article 2 of the United Nations Charter. Also, Article 2 of the Geneva Convention on the High Seas and the Declaración Relativa to the Principios to the rights of international, I don't know what all this is. I don't know. It's referring to different agreements. So basically, among other rules of international applicable law. So here they say it violates all of these, agreements and treaties and whatever else they're pointing out here in the United Nations Charter. The colonialist model that the United States government intends to impose with this type of practice will fail and will be defeated by the Venezuelan people. Venezuela will continue forward with its economic growth, cemented in its 14, I don't know what motores is. Motors? Engines, driving forces, and the development of its industry of hydrocarbons in a way independent and sovereign. All right, so that's the first page. And the last paragraph is, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela reaffirms that these acts will not remain unpunished, and it will exercise all of the corresponding actions, including criticism before the Security Council of the United States and other multilateral organizations and governments of the world. International law will be imposed, and those responsible for these grave acts, is HO's acts or actions? Incidents, grave incidents, will something before justice and history through by criminal proceedings. Is that will be made to answer, maybe? Yeah, we'll answer. We'll answer to justice and history through criminal proceedings, I think. So, anyways, problems with my translation aside, you get the basic idea. While I'm sure I made some mistakes, that is the basic idea of what they said. They call them criminal acts. They call them piracy. They say they're violations of international law. And they said the U.S. will be made to answer for them. All right, now let me take some comments from you guys. So that's the Venezuela statement. Let's see here. A ghost is watching. This says the cartels will enforce those laws. Judge Hatt says under Hugo Chavez, Venezuela seized assets including oil rigs and operations from several U.S. and foreign oil companies as part of a nationalization drive. Gift Horse says the USA has been terrorizing the world for decades, but we never had social media to comment on their actions. I went to the American embassy to protest to stop the war with Vietnam. FB Outlands thinks Maduro is a dum-dum. I didn't even finish the AP report. Cody says proud of our president. Keith Verdi says how quick we forget the lessons of Iraq. ZZYGYY says, I am curious what China will say. This is interesting. According to multiple outlets, this ship is operated by a Chinese oil trader that regularly brings Venezuelan oil to China. Martha says, I don't think this is going to end well. Mammy says this is 100% different than Iraq. Megatrend says this is not a good war. This is not a new war. All right, hold on. AP, by the way, let me just show you some more. Let me just tell you some more of what they're reporting. They're saying that Trump, following the first oil tanker seizure 10 days ago, that oil tanker was named Skipper. That was a sanctioned tanker. Trump vowed that the U.S. would carry out a blockade of Venezuela, of sanctioned tankers. It all comes as Trump has ratcheted up his rhetoric toward Maduro and warned that the longtime Venezuelan leaders' days in power are numbered. And the president this week demanded that Venezuela return assets that it seized from U.S. oil companies years ago, justifying anew his announcement of a blockade against oil tankers traveling to or from the South American country that face American sanctions. Trump cited the lost U.S. investments in Venezuela return assets that it seized from U.S. oil companies. Trump cited the lost U.S. investments in Venezuela when asked about his newest tactic in a pressure campaign against Maduro, suggesting that the Republican administration's moves are at least somewhat motivated by disputes over oil investments, along with accusations of drug trafficking. Some sanctioned tankers already are diverting away from Venezuela. So Trump, I don't know if we were covering this when Trump spoke about this. At some point, Trump said, we're not going to be letting anybody going through who shouldn't be going through, he told reporters earlier this week. He said, you remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil not that long ago, and we want it back, said Trump earlier this week. They took it. They illegally took it. AP says U.S. oil companies dominated Venezuela's petroleum industry until the country's leaders moved to nationalize the sector, first in the 1970s and again in the 21st century under Maduro and his predecessor, Hugo Chavez. Compensation offered by Venezuela was deemed insufficient, and in 2014, an international arbitration panel ordered that the country's socialist government pay $1.6 billion to ExxonMobil. Nationalization is when the government takes over resources in the country or infrastructure in the country that can involve belonging to, say, private individuals or companies. This is a little more to read here, and I'm going to take some comments from you guys. But that's interesting. Again, U.S. oil companies dominated Venezuela's petroleum industry until the country's leaders in Venezuela moved to nationalize the sector, first in the 1970s and again in the 21st century under Maduro and his predecessor, Hugo Chavez. Compensation offered by Venezuela was deemed insufficient, and in 2014, an international panel ordered Venezuela's socialist government to pay $1.6 billion to ExxonMobil. Also, the targeting of tankers comes as Trump has ordered the Defense Department to carry out a series of attacks on vessels in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific Ocean that the Trump administration alleges are smuggling fentanyl and other illegal drugs into the United States and beyond. At least 104 people have been killed in 28 known strikes since early September. Wow. So, and the quote from Trump earlier this week is, we're not going to be letting anybody through who shouldn't be going through. You remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil not that long ago, and we want it back. They took it. They illegally took it. Noel Routed says, this was done for the USA. God bless the USA. Treasure Please says, our military exists to serve the industry. Joe Blankenship claims that Maduro recently offered to let U.S. oil companies in. Never heard a peep from Trump about it. That's what our viewer Joe Blankenship says. Lovecat says, can the U.S. use the oil that they seized from these missions? Blue Spider FL says, wait, isn't the oil inside their borders under their land? Douthis says, so does that mean Trump is giving the oil back to the oil companies? WFT Jet says, Maduro was defeated in the 2024 election. He should not be in power. The Sparky Pilot says, so it is about oil. LMAO, so much for the war on drugs. I knew it. We all did. Some just would not admit it. CR4CKO thinks Trump wants you all to stop talking about the Epstein files. Give me a moment. Now, has Trump posted about this today? Hang on a moment. Got to check this. I do not see anything yet from President Trump himself about this today. Michelle Lauzon, our viewer, thinks it's an illegal blockade. By the way, one of our viewers mentioned this to me. This is from Scorpio mentioned it to me. So I looked it up. Thanks, Scorpio. So just so you know, there is the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management says a large power outage is impacting San Francisco. They say only call 911 for life emergencies. For life safety emergencies, avoid non-essential travel, treat down traffic signals as four-way stops, keep refrigerator and freezer doors closed, and turn off major appliances to prevent surges. This is a large power outage in San Francisco going on, according to San Francisco Department of Emergency Management. There was a power at a substation too. So San Francisco Fire Department says that they are on the scene of a one-alarm fire at a PG&E substation at 8th and Mission Street. I don't know if that's related to the power outage. Okay, hold on. Beautiful Profanity says the fire was reported after the outage. I don't know. I don't know when it actually first was reported. That I don't know. All right, hang on a moment. I'm trying to make sure as we report on this, I don't want to miss updates here. We're going to talk about the Epstein files too. Let me see if Reuters says anything different on this tanker here. So Reuters says the U.S. has seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela in international waters. Homeland Security Secretary Noem confirmed Saturday, a move that comes just days after President Trump announced a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela. But it's not clear that this one is sanctioned. The New York Times says it's not sanctioned. This marks the second time in recent weeks the U.S. has seized a tanker near Venezuela and comes amid a large U.S. military buildup in the region. Noem confirmed this tanker was last docked in Venezuela. No official comment yet from the White House on this. The vessel is believed to be the Panama-flagged Centuries. You can actually see it says Centuries on it in the video. Oh, Reuters says it has not been sanctioned as well. Reuters reports Jeremy Painter, a partner at a Washington, D.C. law firm, Hughes Hubbard, and a former OFAC investigator, said this vessel has not been sanctioned by the U.S. Painter said, the seizure of a vessel that is not sanctioned by the U.S. marks a further increase in Trump's pressure on Venezuela. It also runs counter to Trump's statement that the U.S. would impose a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers. That's from the Reuters story. So Reuters and the New York Times both report this is not a sanctioned vessel. And remember, the blockade was a blockade on sanctioned vessels. I gotta take some comments. Hold on a second. I just want to post that. Give me one moment. Then we'll take some more comments from you guys and get you more updates on this. But again, multiple outlets say this is not a sanctioned vessel. Because and then, Trump said, well, we're going to have a blockade of the sanctioned vessels. But this appears to be not a sanctioned vessel. So then there's a question of, well, so if they're going to start seizing non-sanctioned vessels now, or threatening to, then first of all, that increases the amount that they might seize. Also, maybe now non-sanctioned vessels that were like, well, we're not at risk. Maybe those vessels don't want to go in and out of Venezuela anymore, which makes it harder for Venezuela to sell oil, which is a huge part of their economy. Molly Morgan says, was the oil sanctioned? I don't know. And Christy Nome said it was. I have no idea if it was. And again, Trump said the blockade was on sanctioned oil tankers. There's been no statement from the White House on this yet. Hey, thanks, by the way, to John Posey. He says he hates Somalis so much because they're better pirates than the U.S. Navy. Thanks, John, for your support. Also, thanks to Tim Glenn, who says, uh-oh, Venezuela is taking it to the multinational organization's smiley face. Thanks to Miss Kate, our member. Thanks, Purple Turdwater. And Ada60. Who Ada claims that on multiple occasions, Venezuela has stolen U.S. oil company fields, refineries, and facilities. Thanks, Ada60. Let me just see if there's anything else in that Reuters article too. Mammy Washington thinks we have decided we don't care if it's sanctioned. What does matter is that we win. Our viewer, William Mitchell, says this explains why we were there. It was always about oil. Thibodeau says it's going to cut off oil to China. I believe, if I remember right, that a lot of the Venezuelan oil goes to China. Our viewer, Bella Italian, thinks this is ridiculous. Hang on a moment here. Let me just go back to that Reuters report and see if I have any additional information for you. So, on Tuesday, Trump said he was calling for a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela. Again, reportedly, this one is not sanctioned. In the days since, Reuters says, U.S. forces seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela last week, there has been an effective embargo in place, with loaded vessels carrying millions of barrels of oil staying in Venezuelan waters rather than risk seizure. Since the first seizure, Venezuelan crude exports have fallen sharply. While many vessels picking up oil in Venezuela are under sanctions, others transporting the country's oil and crude from Iran, other vessels from Iran and Russia, have not been sanctioned, and some companies, particularly the U.S.'s Chevron, transport Venezuelan oil in their own authorized ships. China is the biggest buyer of Venezuelan crude oil, which amounts for roughly 4% of its imports. That's actually something to keep in mind as well. That's an interesting point. China is the biggest buyer of Venezuelan crude, which accounts for roughly 4% of its imports. So is this something that China is not going to be happy about? If the flow is cut off from, and also, by the way, Reuters says, for now, the oil market is well supplied and there are millions of barrels of oil on tankers off the coast of China waiting to offload. If the embargo stays in place for some time, then the loss of nearly 1 million barrels a day of crude supply is likely to push oil prices higher. I'm going to post that as well. I think that's important. I'm going to read that again to you. Okay, so again, Reuters reports, I want to read this again. They say China is the biggest buyer of Venezuelan crude oil. This ship reportedly is operated by an oil dealer, a China-based oil dealer, and regularly takes Venezuelan oil to China. China is the biggest buyer of Venezuelan crude, which accounts for roughly 4% of China's imports, with shipments in December on track to average more than 600,000 barrels per day, analysts have said. Reuters continues, for now, the oil market is well supplied, and there are millions of barrels of oil on tankers off the coast of China waiting to offload. If the U.S. embargo stays in place for some time, then the loss of nearly 1 million barrels a day of crude supply is likely to push oil prices higher. Since the U.S. imposed energy sanctions on Venezuela in 2019, traders and refiners buying Venezuelan oil have resorted to a shadow fleet of tankers that disguise their location and to vessels sanctioned for transporting Iranian or Russian oil. The dark or shadow fleet is considered exposed to possible punitive measures from the U.S., shipping analysts have said. This ship, Centuries, that's that one right there, Centuries, which loaded in Venezuela under the false name Crag and is part of the dark fleet, was carrying some 1.8 million barrels of Venezuelan Mary crude oil bound for China. According to internal documents from the state oil company, the oil seller. That is from Reuters. Again, this ship, Centuries, which loaded in Venezuela under the false name Crag and is part of the dark fleet, was carrying some 1.8 million barrels of Venezuelan Mary crude oil bound for China. That's according to documents from the state oil company. The vessel departed Venezuelan waters on Wednesday after being briefly escorted by the Venezuelan Navy. The crude oil was bought by Satao Tejana Oil Trading, one of the many intermediaries involved in the state oil company's sales to Chinese independent refiners, the documents showed. Wow, that's from Reuters. The last tanker, I don't believe, was empty. The last tanker had about 2 million barrels originally loaded on, and then it offloaded some of it, but the reporting I saw said there was a bunch of oil still on it. I'd have to double check that, though. So how upset is China going to be about this? Walter Waterblade says, we deserve that oil. Glad we are finally taking actions to assert our might. Pretty Boy Floyd says, Trump says no oil for you. The Eternal Salt mentioned how much the oil is worth. Yeah, I mean, so I believe that because it's sanctioned oil, that Chinese buyers buy it at a discount. But roughly speaking, oil price, if it's roughly 2 billion barrels at roughly $50 a barrel would be about $100 million, which the Eternal Salt says. Roughly $100 million at market value of unsanctioned oil is on that ship. WFT Jet thinks China can get its oil elsewhere. Jay Regal says, if it's about drugs, Colombia should be first on the list, not Venezuela. Let me just read you a little more here. Hang on here. As of this week, this is from the Reuters article, as of this week, of more than 70 oil tankers in Venezuelan waters that are part of the Shadow Fleet, around 38 are under sanctions by the U.S. Treasury, according to data from tankertrackers.com. Of these, at least 15 are loaded with crude and fuel. Trump's pressure campaign on Maduro has included a ramped-up military presence in the region and more than 24 military strikes on vessels in the Pacific Ocean and Caribbean Sea near Venezuela, which have killed at least 100 people. Trump has also said that U.S. land strikes on the South American country will soon start, but it hasn't happened yet. President Maduro of Venezuela has alleged that the U.S. military buildup is aimed at overthrowing him and gaining control of the OPEC nations' oil reserves, which are the world's largest crude oil reserves. Wow, guys. Where is this all going? Where is this all going? I don't know. I'm going to have to do a poll here. But again, multiple outlets say. The White House, by the way, just reposted Pete Hegseth's post. And remember, Pete Hegseth said President Trump has been clear the blockade of sanctioned oil tankers departing from or bound for Venezuela will remain in full force until Maduro's criminal enterprise returns every stolen American asset. But multiple reports say this tanker is not sanctioned. A couple people asked where the first oil tankers. I have to look up where the first one was taken. Reportedly was taken to Houston, right? Yes, Reuters had reported on December 12th that the supertanker Skipper that was seized by the U.S. is heading to Houston, or Houston region. Let's see. Lithrone thinks this is the beginning of Donald Trump's tantrum after the release of the files. More to come. Yeah, Wine Entertainment. I have read that the oil that's sanctioned oil. This is just based on my memory, but if I'm correct, I believe that oil that is sanctioned, Venezuela sells to China. They're selling at a discount. Yeah, so Reuters reported, Reuters actually has a story, which is interesting. Hang on a moment here, where they talk about that. Reuters had a story a few days ago, and the title of the story is, if I can tell you that, where is it here? The title of the story was Venezuela Faces Demands for Big Oil Discounts and Contract Changes After Tanker Seizure. And they say that discounts on Venezuela's oil bound for China have now widened to $21 per barrel, below the regular market price, whereas previously last week they were the discount was $14 to $15 below regular market price. Yeah, the discount is if Chinese buyers, for example, are buying from Venezuela, but the oil is sanctioned, so that limits who they can sell it to. That's one reason that it would be discounted. And maybe as a buyer, you're taking a certain amount of risk, but you have better leverage if you're buying from some sanctioned oil from someone, because they don't have a lot of alternate buyers. What happens to the ship's crew? That I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be taken somewhere or what, or just let go. We should do a, let's do a poll. How many more tankers will be seized in coming week? Seized this week? Seized next week? I'll do 3 choices: 0, 1, or 2 plus. Okay, we're doing this. We're putting it on. I can't do it on Facebook because they haven't fixed their they have not fixed their polls. So we're doing 0, 1, and 2 plus. And let's see what you guys think. So I'm saying next week, how many more tankers will be seized? Okay, over there on YouTube. We're going to have to talk about the Epstein Files too. On YouTube, 53% say 2 plus next week. 32% say 1, and 15% say 0. And on Twitch, oops. 13% say 0, boy, it's almost the same. 30% say 1 and 57% say 2 plus. Pretty similar between Twitch and YouTube. Etal Rishbro says, let's take them all. Thomas Darwin thinks this one will be let go. I haven't heard about what's happening to this tanker. It's been seized. That's all I've heard. Brother Jug says all of them until their debt is paid. Reportedly, somebody said how many are there? Reportedly around 38 or so. But this one wasn't sanctioned. Reportedly around 38 sanctioned ones off the coast of Venezuela. Where is it here? Yes. Again, Reuters says as of this week, of more than 70 oil tankers in Venezuelan waters that are part of the shadow fleet, around 38 are under sanctions by the U.S. Of these, at least 15 are loaded with crude and fuel. But, I mean, these tankers might just not try to leave Venezuelan waters anymore if they think this is going to happen to them, the ones that are around Venezuela. Tux North says, soon no friends yet. It's not left. It's not even, soon no friends left, not even Greenland. Marie Claude Vingo says, you should be ashamed of USA. Luis Diego thinks Nicolás Maduro is almost out of power. Thanks, Sandy Doggo, for subscribing on Twitch. All right, I think what we should do is I think we should talk a bit about the Epstein files because we haven't done an update on that yet. So let's do an update on that. Give me one moment and we'll give an update on the Epstein files. If you give me 1 second here. Give me one moment. Give me 1 moment, everyone. Thanks for your patience. We are going to talk about the Epstein files. Okay, now, and we'll certainly keep you up to date on developments in Venezuela. So it's very active there. Just yesterday, there was this ship, we have 2 ships, tankers being seized by the U.S. in the last 10 days off the coast of Venezuela. Just yesterday, wasn't there another ship attacked by U.S. forces, an alleged drug boat? Wasn't that yesterday? Am I right that it was yesterday? Was that the last one? I'm looking it up here. I'm almost positive it was yesterday. Why can't I find it here? I reposted it. I know I did. Did they delete it? Did they delete the post? Now I can't find the post. But I know we talked about it yesterday. Anyways, that happened. Was it 2 boats? I don't know. I don't know if the post was deleted or maybe it was reposted or something. Now I can't even find it. Who was it? Who posted that yesterday? Well, I can't find it anymore. I was going to show it to you. Maybe they deleted something and they reposted it again. I can't remember what government account posted it yesterday. Oh, Southern Command. Southern Command posted it yesterday. I remember. Why is it not? Yeah, there was one. Here, look. There's one from yesterday. I mean, this is 2 days ago. I swear there was one yesterday. Or maybe, is this it? Is it the one 2 days ago? Am I forgetting? I thought it was yesterday. This is the one from 2 days ago where 2 boats were hit. Anyways, I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, what I want to do is, we got to talk about the Epstein files. So let's do that. Let's talk about the Epstein files. I told you we'd do an update on the Epstein files, and we'll do that. Now, one story is that some files that were posted yesterday went missing. Remember, the U.S. started posting Epstein files. The Justice Department started posting Epstein files yesterday. but it was only a partial release. By law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which was signed a month ago by President Trump and passed by Congress, that said that all the files needed to be released. And if there was going to be any redactions, there needs to be an explanation of them. So all the files were not released. Only some were released. And the Trump administration said there'll be more in the coming weeks. And also, there were a bunch of redactions, but there were no explanations released of any of the redactions. So we did a whole stream on that yesterday. But something that happened today is a few of the files actually were pulled off. Now, maybe what might have happened is they put something up and they realized it wasn't supposed to be up. I think they had warned about that on their site. So let's talk about that for a second. I'll give you an update. And if you want to, I'll actually put on the screen the link to the Epstein files so you can go look at them. So what I'm going to do here is say update on partial Epstein files release. And the website is justice.gov/Epstein. Not Epstein. No, it's a typo. Epstein. So you can go there and look it up. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a second. Sparky pilot thinks Bondi needs to resign. The Mad Kiwi says they should all be impeached, breaking a law signed by their own president only 30 days ago. Canuck Watcher says some stuff was removed. Let's talk about the removed things. You can see here from AP, at least 16 files have disappeared from the DOJ webpage for documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. As far as I'm aware, there's no explanation of this yet. So AP says at least 16 files disappeared from the Justice Department's public webpage for documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, including a photograph showing President Trump, less than one day after they were posted with no explanation from the government and no notice to the public. The missing files, which were available yesterday and no longer available today, included images of paintings depicting nude women and one showing a series of photographs along a credenza and in drawers, and that image inside a drawer, among other photos, was a photograph of Trump alongside Epstein, Melania Trump, and Epstein's longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell. We saw that photo yesterday. The Justice Department did not say why the files were removed or whether their disappearance was intentional. A spokesperson for the department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Online, the unexplained missing files fueled speculation about what was taken down and why the public was not notified, compounding long-standing intrigue about Epstein and the powerful figures who surrounded him. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee pointed to the missing image, featuring a Trump photo in a post on X writing, "What else is being covered up? We need transparency for the American public." The episode deepened concerns that had already emerged from the Justice Department's much-anticipated document release. The tens of thousands of pages made public offered little new insight into Epstein's crimes or the prosecutorial decisions that allowed him to avoid serious federal charges for years, while omitting some of the most closely watched materials, including FBI interviews with victims and internal Justice Department memos on charging decisions. So those are two things we didn't really see, which many people want to see. FBI interviews with victims, files about those, and files about internal Justice Department memos on charging decisions. I'll take a few comments here. I'll take some comments. Let me just read a little more of this. Scant new insight in the initial disclosures. Some of the most consequential records expected about Epstein are nowhere to be found in the Justice Department's initial disclosures, which span tens of thousands of pages. Missing from what came out already are FBI interviews with survivors and internal Justice Department memos examining charging decisions, records that could have helped explain how investigators viewed the case and why Epstein was allowed in 2008 to plead guilty to a relatively minor state-level prostitution charge. The gaps go further. The records required to be released under a recent law passed by Congress and signed by President Trump, the records hardly reference several powerful figures long associated with Epstein, including Britain's former Prince Andrew, renewing questions about who was scrutinized, who was not, and how much of the disclosures truly advance public accountability. They do say among the fresh nuggets, insight into the Justice Department's decision to abandon an investigation into Epstein in the 2000s, which enabled him to plead guilty to that state-level charge, and a previously unseen 1996 complaint accusing Epstein of stealing photographs of children. The releases so far have been heavy on images of Epstein's homes in New York City and the U.S. Virgin Islands. There was a series of never-before-seen photos of former President Clinton, but fleetingly few of Trump. Neither has been accused of any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein, and there was no indication the photos played a role in the criminal cases brought against him. The Justice Department said it plans to release more records on a rolling basis. The Justice Department blamed the delay on the time-consuming process of obscuring survivors' names and other identifying information. The department has not given any notice when more records might arrive. I think maybe some additional records might have appeared today. The approach angered some Epstein accusers and members of Congress who fought to pass the law that forced the department to act. Instead of marking the end of a years-long battle for transparency, the documents released Friday were merely the beginning of an indefinite wait for a complete picture of Epstein's crimes and the steps taken to investigate them. One, Marina Lacerda, who alleges Epstein started sexually abusing her when she was 14, says, "I feel like, again, the DOJ and the justice system is failing us." Let me show you also, I'm going to take some comments here. Let me show you some comments from two people who I believe sponsored this legislation. Ro Khanna, Democrat, and hold on a second here, and Thomas Massie. Yeah, they were they were two of the sponsors. Ro Khanna, Democrat, and Thomas Massie, Republican. Let me show you what they're saying about this. Then we'll take some comments from you guys. Ro Khanna posted this today. He quoted a J.D. Vance tweet from 2021 when J.D. Vance said, "What possible interest would the U.S. government have in keeping Epstein's clients secret?" Ro Khanna said, "Great question, J.D. Vance. Have you asked Attorney General Bondi? She is brazenly breaking the law that Thomas Massie and I led, and insulting MAGA voters' intelligence with excessive redactions and concealment." Let me show you something else here. Thomas Massie, Republican, who's one of the sponsors of the bill, he posted that J.D. Vance post from 2021 and said, "I missed this version of J.D. Vance," where J.D. Vance in 2021 said, "What possible interest would the U.S. government have in keeping Epstein's clients secret?" Also, Thomas Massie posted this last night. He said, consider these three attachments. 1, This is the actual law. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, which says prohibited grounds for withholding. No record shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. So the idea is that they cannot withhold any records because somebody might be embarrassed or have reputational harm or political sensitivity. Then he said, Thomas Massie then posted this. He posted a report from Fox News Digital, where Fox News Digital said they had learned, Fox News Digital was reporting this last night, Fox News Digital has learned that the same, the Justice Department redacted the names and identifiers of victims. Fox News Digital has learned that the same redaction standards were applied to politically exposed individuals and government officials. That's what Fox News Digital was saying. That the Justice Department redacted names of politically exposed individuals and government officials. And the third thing that Thomas Massie posted was a law which says whoever knowingly conceals, covers up with the intent to impede, obstruct, or influence the proper administration of any matter, blah, 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 shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. So he's suggesting that people in the Justice Department could be breaking the law by not releasing these records the way they're supposed to be. And he also posted below that, he said, hold on a second, he said here, a future Department of Justice could convict the current Attorney General and others because the Epstein Files Transparency Act is not like a congressional subpoena which expires at the end of each Congress. So that's from Republican Thomas Massie. All right, so I want to take some comments from you guys on this. What do you think about this? Hold on. About the missing, well, the files that have, about 16 files, I believe it is, that have disappeared today from the site. And also, just generally speaking, many files not being released in the initial batch. So let's get some comments from you guys on this. Sorry, normally I don't like to read that much at a time, but I thought that was a good article in terms of getting you caught up on what's going on. By the way, a quick thanks to LC by 1TJ for the memberships. That's really nice of you. Please make sure you thank LC1TJ or somebody else if they give you a membership or a subscription. Thanks Robbie Blobby for the membership, and Paula Sue and Christine Gagnon for your support. And it's Bekele for the membership. Thank you. And also CC for the bits, and Coffeeologist for the bits, and Gonzalez for your support. By the way, Gonzalez said about the U.S. seizing the oil tanker, Gonzalez says, coming up with a random theory, what if they said they're seizing, but in reality secretly buying cheap oil? All right, let me take some of your comments on the Epstein files. What do you think about all of this? I want to hear from you. That headband guy says a law with no consequences. Well, Thomas Massie is suggesting that in future administrations, there could be consequences for people in the Justice Department if they don't comply with the law. Maybe you don't think that's the case. Let's see here. I may have to. I'm hearing something in my ear. I may need 10 seconds. Scott D. Johnston thinks it's a massive cover-up. GTG says, big cover-up, we will never see them. Blah, blah, blah says, seeing Mick Jagger together with Epstein in the photo threw me for a loop. Gummy Bear thinks it's one of the most blatant cover-ups in any government history. Douthis says there are consequences. They could be charged with obstruction of justice. Sydney thinks both political parties are involved. Michelle Defender First says another day, another law trampled by the regime. Michelle Bryan thinks everything should be released totally unredacted. Well, I assume, Michelle, you think like if there's like, say, child sex abuse material or something like that, you wouldn't want to have that released. I don't think you're saying that. But I think I get what you're saying, though. Just to clarify, though. Let's see here. KD says the stuff they removed today didn't really seem that bad, so I am confused. Well, so I think an issue is that some files were removed today, but there was no explanation given why. They didn't say that we're doing this and here's why. There was no explanation. You know what? I need about 10 seconds. There's sound going off that that's in my ear that I need to fix. Give me about 10, 15 seconds. All right, it's fixed. It's fixed. Let's see. Toolman Tim thinks the only thing redacted should be actual victim info. The rich and powerful are not the victims. Distant Galaxy says it seems the only thing that truly united our two major political parties in the last century is concealing the largest PDF ring. Casey Veteran thinks it's the largest obvious cover-up in recent history. Disgusting. Let me check something here. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Also, Reuters points out that many of the documents released by the Justice Department yesterday, in the partial release, were heavily redacted. One of the redacted files, a 119-page document that appeared to contain grand jury testimony, was entirely blacked out. Now, I did see a post online claiming that a partially unredacted version of that document was posted again today, but I'm not positive about that. They say Reuters says 3 more documents of 100 pages each were totally redacted. And there were, if you looked at it, there's tons of photos that have big black squares over all of it or part of the photo. And a lot of documents had stuff redacted. And remember, strictly speaking, the law says that there's supposed to be an explanation of anything that's redacted. And so far, there's been no explanation of any redactions. That's a point that Ro Khanna made yesterday. If you look at the actual text of the bill right here, it says, all redactions must be accompanied by a written justification published in the Federal Register and submitted to Congress. Haven't seen that so far. Hang on a moment here. I would like to get you an update on what, I believe there might have been some more posted today. One moment here. Oh, by the way, a little detail on, so 16, as we mentioned, there were we told you that AP said that there were 16 files that have disappeared from the DOJ webpage since yesterday. The New York Times reports that a total of 16 photos were taken down. And among them, one of the few that contained Trump's image. That also contained a bunch of other photos in that image. Again, no explanation from the Justice Department so far on why those have been taken down. Of the 16 removed photos, the Times says that 12 of them, the Times reported that 12 of them showed the massage room in Epstein's mansion in New York. And that the pictures, those 12 pictures of the massage room that were removed showed paintings and photographs of nude women. But the Times pointed out that there's other photos elsewhere in the files release that show artwork featuring nude women that were not removed. And also there's some photos of the massage room that are still up there that were not removed. So, I can't tell you what exactly, maybe if you heard the Justice Department's explanation for why they removed those 16 files, you might be like, oh, that makes sense. But the thing is, there's been no explanation. So I don't know what it is. We haven't heard from them yet. Let's see here. Hang on a moment here. I'm going to take some more comments from you guys. Oh, there's a little news video on this I might show you too. I have a news video from Reuters about the release of the files. We're going to look at that in a second. We'll look at that in a second. Let me take some comments first, though. Hey, by the way, a quick thanks to Allison Hargroves, gave 20 people memberships. That's so nice of you, Allison. Thanks so much. Neok says, I don't think anyone will ever fully release the files. Yeah, a couple of our viewers talked about the photo of Michael Jackson. It's Becco Lilly. Thanks, it's Becco Lilly. And Diana Ross. I'll mention that. Thanks, Paula Sue, by the way, and Robbie Blobby. Yeah, I have to look that up. Yeah, so there was a photo of Michael Jackson and Diana Ross and Bill Clinton. Is that what it was? And then I believe that the two square, I'm seeing people online say that the two, oh, here it is. Okay, right. I got it. So Abigail Jackson, who is he's the White House Deputy Press Secretary, she posted that per the Epstein Files Transparency Act, the DOJ was specifically instructed only to redact the faces of victims and or minors. Here is a picture of Bill Clinton with his arm around Michael Jackson and redacted individuals. That's what she said this, again, White House Deputy Press Secretary. But it turns out that the children, isn't it that it was not victims, was it Diana Ross's children? Is that what it was? I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. Are they Michael Jackson and Diana Ross's children? Yeah, two. One of our viewers says two of his, one of her. I think both of their children. So, hold on. I want to just get you a firm answer on this. But I believe that's the idea. Hang on. Yeah, I haven't seen that confirmed. I see a lot of people online saying that the children in that picture are Diana Ross's and Michael Jackson's kids. But I don't know that for sure myself. But I'm seeing, I mean, there's a bunch of community notes on X that say the three people blocked out are Diana Ross's and Michael Jackson's children. I just want to be clear. I don't personally have confirmation of that. So, and I think I think people have a problem. Some people have a problem with the White House deputy press secretary posting it this way, because they think that when you say what she said, it seems like maybe she's implying that these are victims. When I say Diana Ross's and Michael Jackson's children, I don't mean children that they both had the same children. I mean children belonging to either one of them. Yeah, I've seen the original photo. I'm not going to show the original photo because I just don't want to be showing kids in a photo. So I've seen the original photo. I just, again, as someone who I don't know well enough myself to just eyeball a photo of the kids and say, that's definitely Michael Jackson and Diana Ross's children. So I just want to be careful about what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, I see a bunch of people online saying, well, the black squares in that photo actually just covered children of Michael Jackson and children of Diana Ross. But I don't want to tell you that's the case when I don't know it myself for sure. So I'm just full disclosure here. That's all I'm saying. Okay, hold on a moment here. Hold on a moment. Hold on a moment. Also just seeing if we have any updates that I'm missing. Things happen while I'm on the air, while we're talking here. So I just want to see, make sure I'm not missing anything from the last few minutes. Oh, there is a there's a, hey, I got quoted. I got quoted by the White House Deputy Press Secretary. How about that? Guys, we've made it. We've made it. Anna Kelly. Weren't we just talking about Anna Kelly? Did she post the other thing? She posted the other post, right? Or no? Was that a different deputy press secretary? No, I guess that wasn't Anna Kelly. Whose post was I just showing you? Can't even remember. Hold on, let me show you. I got tweet quoted. Hang on, I'll show you. This is funny. Abigail Jackson was the deputy press secretary. This is a different one. Okay, sorry. Everything's falling apart here. Let me show you this. There is a, so this post is from, hey, look, it's Anna Kelly. It's Anna Kelly, White House Deputy Press Secretary. And she reposted my post. She says the tanker contained sanctioned oil. Basically, the White House statement on this tanker quotes my post, where I'm quoting the New York Times. Just to be fair, I mean, I said the New York Times says. How about that? There you go. Anyways, the White House Deputy Press Secretary posted, quoting my post in which I refer to the New York Times report, she says, Anna Kelly, the tanker contained sanctioned Venezuela State Oil Company oil. It was a falsely flagged vessel operating as part of the Venezuelan shadow fleet to traffic stolen oil and fund the narco-terrorist Maduro regime. So I had posted that the New York Times said it's not sanctioned. And she says the oil is sanctioned. Now, again, President Trump had said he announced a blockade on sanctioned tankers, not sanctioned oil. Anyways, there you go. There you go, guys. Once in a while, stuff like that happens. Funny, though. Let's see here. By the way, thanks to Crift Labs for your support. Thanks, Crift Labs. Sorry, we were talking about what happened is we were talking about the Epstein files, and I was looking for news updates, and somebody else I follow posted, hey, there's a statement from the White House. And then I looked at the statement from the White House. I was like, wait a second, she reposted my post. I don't even think she follows me, by the way. Anyways, it just happened. All right. I want to talk a little more about Epstein files. We talked for a lot about, if you missed it, we talked a bunch about the tanker stuff. The second seized oil tanker in 10 days, 10, 11 days. The first one was seized 10 days ago. So we talked a bunch about that in the first part of the I just heard something else about the tanker. Something else is being reported about the tanker. Christian Trebert of the New York Times says that tanker trackers and Kepler intelligence said that the tanker that was boarded, that was seized this morning by the U.S., it spoofed its location while picking up Venezuelan oil. And a ghost signal from a non-existent ship showed up at its actual location. All right, hang on a moment. We're going to talk a little more about the Epstein Files update. So we talked about the Diana Ross photo. People wanted to talk about that. And then, we didn't talk about this yesterday, and I did want to mention this because I think it's interesting. A lot of what I think a lot of people are looking for, as we mentioned, was not in this release. But one thing in the release that I've widely seen described as significant is this. Epstein files include child porn complaint a decade before federal investigation. One of the viewers mentioned this to me. I think we actually showed this document yesterday on the air. I forget which one it was. But you can see here from the Washington Post. Justice Department files related to deceased sex offender Jeffrey Epstein released yesterday included a 1996 complaint to the FBI about Epstein allegedly possessing and distributing child pornography. And this allegation in 1996 was about a decade before a federal investigation was launched into his predatory behavior with minors and young women. The complaint was brought by Maria Farmer, who worked for Epstein in the 1990s and has for years said that she told police and federal investigators that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had sexually assaulted her. The FBI had never publicly acknowledged her original report. The complaint states that Farmer, whose name is blacked out through the document, took pictures of her sisters 12 and 16 years for her own personal artwork, and that Epstein stole the photos and negatives and is believed to have sold the pictures to potential buyers. The document indicates Epstein threatened that if Farmer told anyone about the photos, he will burn her house down, and that Epstein asked Farmer, then in her mid-20s, to take pictures of young girls at swimming pools. The complaint is stamped with the date September 3rd, 1996. Farmer said in a statement she feels redeemed that the new tranche of files released by the Justice Department includes documentation of her original complaint. She said, "It's one of the best days of my life. Of course, it's mixed with the fact that I'm devastated about all the other little girls like Virginia Giuffre who were harmed because the FBI didn't do their job." She said, "I'm crying for two reasons. I want everyone to know that I am shedding tears of joy for myself, but also tears of sorrow for the other victims that the FBI failed." So she said that for years that she had made this complaint in 1996 and it had never been acknowledged by the FBI. She, by the way, if I remember right, there's a very good documentary, I think it's on Netflix, about the whole Jeffrey Epstein saga, and I forget what it's called, but if I remember right, she actually is in that documentary and she tells this story. Farmer has said she met Maxwell and Epstein when she was a grad student in Manhattan in 1995 and that Epstein later hired her. Farmer claims in the summer of 1996 she was sexually assaulted by Epstein and Maxwell at the Ohio estate of billionaire retail executive Leslie Wexner. Farmer has also said that Maxwell sexually abused her sister Annie, who was 15 years old at the time, on a massage table at Epstein's New Mexico ranch. Lawyers for Farmer said she told the FBI in 1996, August, that she observed explicit images of children inside Epstein's home, a modeling book of child pornography that was kept in Epstein's safe, and Epstein's theft of the nude images of her sisters. Farmer filed a lawsuit this May seeking damages from the federal government for what her lawyer says was the federal authorities' negligence regarding her claims related to Epstein and Maxwell. After speaking to local and federal authorities in 1996, Farmer said no one appeared to act on her reports until 2006, when the FBI knocked on her door to interview her about Epstein. In 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty to state charges in Florida, one count of soliciting prostitution and one count of soliciting prostitution for someone under the age of 18, and was sentenced to 18 months in prison under a secret and controversial arrangement. The U.S. Attorney's Office agreed not to prosecute Epstein for federal crimes related to allegations of sex with underage girls. So I did want to mention this because, again, there's a lot of reporting about a lot that is out there, that a lot of Epstein files that were not included in the original release. However, this is something that was included in the original release. So I did want to mention this. And a viewer, again, we talked about the document a little yesterday, but I wasn't even sure of the import of the document. And if I had it, if somebody might have messaged me with it, if I had it handy, I would actually show you the document right now. I just don't know. I don't know what the number of it is on the site. I can go to the site and search. I don't think it'll be searchable by her name on the site. If somebody wants to send me or post the link to that document, I'll show it to you. I'm looking at my messages right now, and I don't see it. Justice Zen thinks it was, the point is that it was reported to the FBI in the mid-90s and someone made it go away. Our viewer DMAC says, I don't know if this is true. Our viewer DMAC says of the Michael Jackson photo, Michael Jackson was only there to buy property and was introduced to Epstein and Clinton on that same trip. Let me just, that's what DMAC says. I can't confirm that. But I will say what I said yesterday. And this is obvious, and I know a lot of you know this. Just because somebody appears in a picture in the Epstein files or appears in a picture with Jeffrey Epstein or with Ghislaine Maxwell, that does not mean that they did some kind of illegal activity with Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell or anyone else. So I am not in any way implying that they do. And I said that yesterday as well. And our viewer MJ, so I'm not sure about this. Our viewer MJ sent me a file, which is apparently, this is what I saw online, apparently this 119-page document that was posted either all or mostly redacted yesterday, apparently was reposted today with a lot fewer redactions. I'm not positive about that, but it appears to be the case. Thanks to Greg Swindle 6875. Hey, thanks, Greg Swindle. I really appreciate that. Thanks so much, Greg, for your support. Also, Outsider. Thanks for being a member. Did anyone send me the link to that file? Because I don't have it here. Hold on. Hang on. I was going to show you the file we just talked about, but I don't have a link to it, and I don't know where it is. Hang on a moment. I'm just checking for updates too to make sure I didn't miss anything the last few minutes. Now, this is interesting. Hold on a second. Now, Christian Trebert of the New York Times says the Coast Guard did not seize the vessel. Kristi Noem said the vessel was apprehended. I just want to be clear here. Kristi Noem, in her post, said the Department of War apprehended an oil tanker. So I have been saying seized. Doesn't say boarded, it says apprehended. Now, maybe they've let it go, but the word used here was apprehended, taken into custody. So I don't know if they still have control of it. I don't know if this was a temporary. A temporary seizure or apprehension. I have no idea. The Reuters headline says seized. The New York Times headline says detained. The New York Times article says, in the first line, it says, on the subheadline, it says, Kristi Noem said a vessel had been apprehended. So I don't know, I can't tell you. And now the New York Times is saying stopped and boarded, according to some officials they talk about. So it's a bit unclear if the U.S. is still in control of this vessel? All right. So I don't know. I haven't heard any updates from the government on that. It's a bit unclear to me whether the U.S. still controls the vessel. Captain Jerry Donnelly, thanks. Captain Jerry Donnelly says, once offloaded in USA, they get the ship back. I don't even know if this ship is being taken to the USA. I don't even know if right now the U.S. still control the ship. Sarah thinks we gave it back. It's just not clear to me. I don't believe the government has said what's happened to it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen it. Here, while I look this up, let me just again. While I'm looking this up to see if there's any updates, let me just, I'll show you the video again that we were looking at earlier, that Secretary Noem released of what she calls the apprehension of the ship. I guess I'm going to leave up seizure. I'm fine with that. I'm fine. If she said apprehension, I'm fine with the word seizure. In theory, it could be a short apprehension or seizure, but I'm fine with the word seizure. Let me just see if I have an update here. Our viewer Hogland Jeffrey thinks found out it belonged to China and decided we probably didn't want that particular war. Reportedly, this is a non-sanctioned Panamanian flagged ship, reportedly, that is operated by a Chinese oil trader and regularly delivers Venezuelan oil to China. Naughty Boy thinks Trump is doing a good job squeezing Venezuela's illegitimate government. Mr. Satnav says 1 tanker a week to pay for the Navy deployment. You know, sometimes the reporting gets updated while we're on there, so let me just see what I can find new. The New York Times says it's unclear how long the U.S. is going to detain the ship. Oh, this is interesting. Also, the New York Times says American authorities did not have a seizure warrant for this ship like they had the last one. Well, that's interesting. I might have to post that, the quote from the New York Times article. I'll post it on my X account. So again, the New York Times is saying there's no U.S. seizure warrant for this ship like there was for the ship 10 days ago. That's very interesting. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I'm going to give you another update on the ship. But before I do that, I did tell you, I have a video here. So Reuters has a summary, a little video summary of the Epstein Files release stuff, which I think might be interesting to watch. It's from this article. It says, U.S. Epstein Files full of famous names, but not Trump's. So let me just show you this little summary video here. I like their summary videos. oops, hold on a moment. What I have to do is, to show you this, I'll show you this right now. I think it's just a general summary of what happened. So let me do this. I'll put this here. I'll put this here. Give me a moment. And let's play this for you.
On Friday. That's after months of wrangling and rebellion by some of President Donald. A new trove of files from the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein was released by the U.S. Justice Department on Friday. That's after months of wrangling and rebellion by some of President Donald Trump's staunchest supporters over his administration's reluctance to make public all files tied to the convicted sex offender. Reuters was in the process of reviewing the latest documents upon their release by the Justice Department, which bowed to pressure from lawmakers who forced the files' disclosure with the new law. Some files in the new release included photos of former President Bill Clinton and Rolling Stones singer Mick Jagger. In a note on the Justice Department website, it said all reasonable effort had been made to protect victims, but warned that some could be disclosed inadvertently. Trump had initially urged fellow Republicans in Congress to oppose the new law forcing the release of the files. He had warned that disclosing potentially sensitive records could set a dangerous precedent. However, many of his voters accused the Trump administration of covering up Epstein's ties to powerful people and hiding details surrounding his 2019 death in a Manhattan jail, which was ruled a suicide. On the campaign trail in 2024, Trump promised to declassify the Epstein files if elected. But he's been seeking to move on from the controversy so he can focus on issues like affordability ahead of the midterm elections next November. Trump and Epstein were once friends until a falling out before Epstein's conviction in 2008. The president has repeatedly denied knowing about Epstein's alleged sex trafficking. Trump's Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche told Fox News earlier on Friday that the DOJ would not release the entire cache of files related to Epstein. He said he expected hundreds of thousands more to be released in the coming weeks as the department reviewed them to protect victims' privacy.
All right, so I just wanted to let you see that, and because I said I would. And all right, hold on. Now what I have to do is go back to the ship video. Okay, we get rid of this. We put this on, and that. Yes, I was showing you the video that the U.S. government released of their seizure. So again, of the ship. The New York Times says it's not clear how long the U.S. will be in custody of the ship. The New York Times reports that that the U.S. did not have a seizure warrant for this ship like they had for the previous ship. And this ship reportedly had almost 2 billion barrels of Venezuelan crude oil on it. The Wall Street Journal reports also, the Wall Street Journal is saying it is unclear if the U.S. is going to take possession of this ship and the oil on it. The U.S. has taken possession of the skipper ship from 10 days ago. And I believe the U.S. has said that they plan to take the oil. I believe. Yeah, according to this article, it says, in the Wall Street Journal, it says they have. But unclear what the fate of this ship is and the oil on it. Also, I do want to mention the Wall Street Journal talked to a U.S. official who said the administration is planning on seizing more tankers. And the Wall Street Journal says the U.S. is preparing warrants to take other ships. One other thing I want to mention the Wall Street Journal points out is they say in the past the U.S. has gone after sanctioned oil, but it's a shift for the U.S. to go after oil, the ships that are trafficking, that are shipping the sanctioned oil. Oh, the Washington Post just updated their article too. Let me see if they have any updates. Okay, this is very interesting. The Washington Post says that Kristi Noem today, she didn't say that the oil tanker was sanctioned, but she said it had sanctioned oil, okay? The Washington Post says the U.S. has not, in fact, imposed sanctions on Venezuelan oil. DHS described Saturday's action as a lightning strike operation to seize the ship, but the legal grounds for such a seizure or whether the vessel or any of its cargo was in fact seized is unclear. Well, that's very interesting. How about that? Did DHS post about this? Oh, yeah, they did. Yes, look. I missed this before. Here is the Homeland Security post about this. Prepare to be boarded. But they said seize. See, they use the word seize, guys. Look, Homeland Security says seize. I'm putting seize back in my headline. Enough of this. This morning, the Coast Guard, in coordination with the Department of War, executed a lightning strike operation to seize. No, guys, this is the same ship. This is second. There's one 10 days ago and one today, not two today. This morning, the U.S. Coast Guard, in coordination with the Department of War, executed a lightning strike operation to seize the motor tanker Centuries, which is suspected of carrying oil subject to U.S. sanctions. The Washington Post says the oil is not sanctioned. The iron fist of America's joint military and federal law enforcement rules the waves. Okay. Hang on. All right, so they posted that. And is there any other new reporting about this from the Post article that they just updated? So again, the Washington Post says that Kristi Noem said today that the ship had sanctioned oil on it, but the Post says that the U.S. has not in fact imposed sanctions on Venezuelan oil. DHS described today's action as a lightning strike operation to seize the ship, but the legal grounds for such a seizure or whether the vessel or any of its cargo was in fact seized were unclear. The Centuries, okay, I have an update. The Centuries, a 24-year-old Panamanian flagged oil tanker, is the sole vessel owned by Century Shipping in Hong Kong, which is part of China, according to the International Maritime Organization, a UN agency. Neither the vessel nor the company is under any sanctions, according to UN agency IMO. Jeremy Painter, who is a former lead investigator and analyst for the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control, said that today's action runs counter to Trump's statement that this blockade applies only to ships under U.S. sanctions. Painters said that Noem's statement was definitely a misuse of the term illicit. Kristi Noem, in her statement today, announcing this seizure, said the United States will continue to pursue the illicit, unlawful movement of sanctioned oil that is used to fund narco-terrorism in the region. The former Treasury Department Office of Foreign Assets Control lead investigator and analyst told the Washington Post that Noem's statement is definitely a misuse of the term illicit. Absent a connection to the U.S., there is absolutely nothing illegal as it pertains to sanctions in relation to the cargo, he said. Also, the Post says that the December 10th boat that was boarded and seized by the U.S. had sanctions imposed on it by the U.S. several years earlier for carrying Iranian oil. Sanctions on the Venezuelan state oil company apply only to its dealings with certain U.S. people or entities. Okay, a little more update here from the Washington Post. Because the Centuries, the ship, the tanker, is not under U.S. sanctions, the Coast Guard relied on a maritime law called right of visit, which allows a warship to board and inspect a vessel if it suspects it of engaging in illegal activity, a U.S. official said. The U.S. got permission from the government of Panama to board the vessel, the official said. The Centuries was carrying oil from a China-based trader with a history of transporting Venezuelan crude oil to Chinese refineries, says the Post. The blockade that Trump announced on sanctioned vessels could affect more than 30 tankers in the Caribbean currently under U.S. sanctions. At least 12 of those vessels are carrying Venezuelan oil. That information is according to tankertrackers.com and the global intelligence company Kepler. So, who knows, maybe there will be more tanker seizures. But will this tanker and its oil stay in U.S. custody? I have no idea. Was this a legal seizure? Seems like there's questions about that. But I'm not a legal expert. I will take a few more comments on this. Let's see here. Our viewer optional flag says DOJ is too busy right now. You mean with the Epstein files? Jazzy Renee thinks this is eventually going to backfire on us as usual. Jay Bowen thinks the word illicit was a misnomer, and he spells misnomer misnoemer. Pretty Boy Floyd says, well, they can come and get it through Panamanian courts, I guess. Well, as of right now, from what we know, it might still be in U.S. custody, although I don't even know. Mammy Washington says, see, we lean on the right people and rules move around us. Boom, we are the boss. Shadow Net says, nobody cares. The U.S. will do whatever it feels like. Charles says, I love war with China. Thanks, by the way, to Bonnie Goodwin for your support. I really appreciate it, Bonnie Goodwin. Thanks, Bonnie. Okay. Hang on one sec. By the way, thanks to Woodcraft Supply Corner, who sent me a link to the document we were talking about earlier when we were talking about the Epstein files. I don't think we're going to get to it again on this stream, but I appreciate you sending it in. Thanks to SHS Bank for your support as well. Thanks, SHS Bank. Jay Gibbons says, who owns the oil? Did China already pay for the oil? That's a good question. I don't know. All right, guys, look. Thanks to Toolman Tim for another gift sub. Thank you. So, wanted to come on the air and give an update about this. I think we're going to wrap up this live stream. We've talked about, there's a lot we don't know about this seizure and whether the U.S. is going to keep the ship. Is the U.S. going to hold on to the ship? Is the U.S. going to hold on to the oil? Was this a legal seizure? Would a neutral expert on the law of the seas and international law say this was a legal seizure? I don't know. Also, obviously, with the Epstein files, a lot of those have not been released yet. Where's that going to happen? Where's that all going to go? We'll keep an eye on that. But I think for right now, we're going to start wrapping this up. And if there's big news during the rest of the weekend, I will come on the air and cover it for you. So maybe we'll do another stream on this tomorrow. We'll see. Who knows what's going to happen the rest of the weekend. But wanted to come on and give you an update on this and also on the Epstein files. But more news to come. More news to come. By the way, I owe a thank you to 904 Classic Legend, who says, glad I drive a 1969 Chevy with a 632 big block. Thank you, 904 Classic Legend, for your support. I will post updates on my X account if there's updates tonight on this that don't warrant like a new stream. My X account is @Lookner on X. You can follow me there for breaking news updates. Somehow my account got reposted by the White House, what was it, the deputy press secretary? Because they were interested in the quote that I quoted. Anna Kelly, the White House deputy press secretary. So my X account had its 15 minutes of fame today. But again, I'm @Lookner on X. I'll be posting updates there when I see them. And I would, if you like the coverage, if you want to see more of it, subscribe, follow the channel Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. Agenda Free TV. And what was I going to say? And I would turn the notifications on too. We have a free notification system that you can sign up for free, and you get sent a notification whenever you go live. I never know when there's going to be some new big development that I'm going to rush on the air to cover. So that way you don't miss a stream. Sign up for our free notifications. The mods will post a link in the chat. Also, you can find the notifications link on YouTube and Facebook in the description of this video. So sign up for the notifications. I really appreciate people joining our coverage today. A lot of you have been sending me news updates and letting me read your comments on the air and sending in interesting questions, so thanks for that as well. And huge thanks to our moderators. We cannot have our chat rooms without our moderators. They're the best. Over there on YouTube today, people like Beth Mythical, Roberts May Queen, Janet B., and Ruth. Thank you for moderating there. And over on Twitch, Bash and Girl, Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah and Shirley Devon, all of our Twitch moderators, Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, and our Facebook moderators, people like Margaret Riley, Charlotte Webb, Shannon Davis Hughes. Huge thanks to all of our moderators. Thank you so much for modding. And thanks to everybody who donated to the channel. That is so nice of you guys. I really appreciate that. That's what allows this channel to be on the air, is your support. So I really, really appreciate that. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thank you so much. Again, if there's big news tonight or tomorrow, we'll come on the air. Over the weekend, I'll be keeping an eye out. What else did I want to mention? Another good way to find out when we're live is follow us on X, at Agenda Free TV on X. If you're on X, I always post there when we're going live. I post updates about the channel there at Agenda Free TV. And we do have a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we are not live. The Discord chat, it's free. Check out our Discord chat. It's the same link as the free notifications link. The Discord chat. Same link as the free notifications. So check that out if you want. And a number of our viewers really like doing that. And thanks to our Discord mods for all you do over on Discord. Thank you, Discord moderators. I do want to mention also, for those who watch on YouTube, I would suggest turning on the YouTube notifications. Another good way to find out when we're live. To do that, what you need to do is you need to subscribe to the channel and click the notifications bell and choose all notifications. Again, subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and choose all notifications. All right. And I want to shout out, sorry I didn't do it earlier. I want to shout out some of our Facebook subscribers like Sharon Klassen Goslin, and Jennifer Ellers, and Shannon Davis Hughes, and Margaret Riley, and Kay Lowry Body, and Robert Rial II, and Chuck Mosca, and Diane Allworth. Robert Rial says, the second, well, if we're stealing Chinese oil, I would rather just have them not send it to Houston, just a little too close to home for me, if trying to decide to get uppity about it. That's what Robert said. Thanks, Marie Goodson Hamilton and Diane Allworth for subscribing as well. Sharon Klassen Goslin, and all of our other Facebook subscribers, thanks for subscribing over there. Also, our Twitch subscribers, thank you so much. Douthis, Matthew Kohai 3, DeGeorge 85, Wall Street, Shaggy, and Mr. Satnav, Sarah, all of our Pretty Boy Floyd, all of our Twitch subscribers too, thank you. Toolman Tim, and our YouTube members, people like UV Lightning, Crypto King, Dean R, JK Cinar, Anita Modolewski, Eric Johnson, Evelyn in Maine, CAC, Cherry Cola, Barbara, La France, Jewish Pickles, Halava, Mammy Washington, Pat W, Dean R, Eric Johnson, thanks for being members, C. Serwin, CAC, JK Cinar, David Schwab, Eric Johnson, Barry, Possamy, Electra, Alabama fan, Michael Avery, Marcus G, I'll say, David N, Raisback, Hugs and Stuff. Thank you to all of our members and all of our other members. Okay. And everybody else for watching. Pure Fryer. KDD says, where can I get a link for the Discord? The mods will post a link for the Discord in the chat. Maybe I'm guessing they did. Maybe mods can do it again. YouTube mods, could you post it one more time in the chat? That would be awesome. Thank you. Misfit, thanks for watching. Havada Stinker, thanks for watching. Did I thank Betsy's Tag? Thank you for being a member. Shrimp Palm, thanks for watching. Lord Powder. Lord Powder says, piracy is back, baby. Block H, thank you for watching. And also Melissa Terry. Oops, hold on a moment here. Thank you for watching. Oh, Kristen McConnell Gates. Thanks for the Facebook stars. Kristen McConnell Gates. I missed that before. If you're still watching, Kristen. Juliana Martin, thanks for watching. Audrey Burbank, Vonnie Darling, Oscar Perez, and everybody else. So I will keep an eye on things. I'll post updates on my X account. If there's some huge breaking news, we can come on the air and do another stream. If you missed it, you can rewind and watch. All right, guys. So that is it for now. You've been watching our live breaking news coverage of the U.S. seizing a second oil tanker. The first one was 10 days ago off the coast of Venezuela. Are there more to come? We'll have to see. Also, we gave a bit of an update on the Epstein files. Maybe we'll do more coverage of that as more are released, as they're supposed to be. But that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.